One chance only, the vice presidential debate campaign featuring a series of spirited exchanges. It was Republican Mike Pence, Democrat Tim Kaine, both polished politicians who tackled or avoided topics like Donald Trump's taxes and Hillary Clinton's emails.
It's important in this moment to remember that Hillary Clinton had a private server in her home that had classified information on it about drone strikes. Emails from the President of the United States of America were on there.
A full investigation concluded that not one reasonable prosecutor would take any additional step. You don't get to decide the rights and wrongs of this. We have a
poll taken by CNN right after the debate showed more people think Republican Mike Pence won that debate. The question is, which one scored points with undecided voters? It probably didn't sway any decided voters. Dr. Jeff Engel, director of the Center for Presidential History at SMU, clearly Tim Kaine, the former governor, now a senator from Virginia, was told, go out there and get him, boy. Did he?
I think he really did. In fact, I have to dispute those independent analysts and pollsters because I think Tim Kaine did a marvelous job in this debate by doing the one thing that a vice presidential candidate should do, which is to keep the debate and keep the focus on the other guy's record. The number of times that Kaine was able to make the conversation not only about Donald Trump, but about what Donald Trump said, forcing Pence to defend things that were frankly somewhat indefensible that Trump said, that really tells us that if you're talking about the other guy's record, you're winning.
Two things that as a viewer annoyed the heck out of me, and I know they annoyed the heck out of a lot of people. Tim Kaine interrupting, not letting Mike Pence finish, and Mike Pence, on the flip side of that, not answering the question that was asked, but turning to a talking point, what he wanted to talk about, not what he was asked about.
I think that's exactly right. I think that Pence did a marvelous job, not only of not answering the question that was asked, but also not answering the question about Trump's record. I mean, it really was astounding the number of times that Pence was asked, how can you defend this point that Trump made? How can you defend this statement? Whether it's about Mexicans, whether it's about immigrants, whether about women, and Pence refused to defend any of them.
And here is an example of just that.
And I just want to talk about the tone that's set from the top. Donald Trump during his campaign has called Mexicans rapists and criminals. He's called women slobs, pigs, dogs, disgusting. I don't like saying that in front of my wife and my mother. He attacked an Indiana-born federal judge and said he was unqualified to hear a federal lawsuit because his parents were Mexican. He went after John McCain, a POW, and said he wasn't a hero because he'd been captured. He said African Americans are living in hell, and he perpetrated this outrageous and bigoted lie that President Obama is not a U.S. citizen. If you want to have a society where people are respected and respect laws, you can't have somebody at the top who demeans every group that he talks about. And I cannot believe that Governor Pence will defend the insult-driven campaign that Donald Trump has run.
All right, I want to turn to...
And in fact, he did not on a lot of those issues that we were talking about, leading some people to say that Mike Pence, what he's really doing is setting himself up to run for president in 2020, assuming that either Donald Trump is going to lose or wouldn't run for a second term.
Yeah, I got bad news for the American public here. I mean, we're 4 weeks out from the campaign, but the 2020 campaign just kicked off.
Right.
And I think you can really tell a lot by what the candidates, the vice presidential candidates, think is going to happen by how they react in this debate.
Right.
So it's very clear to me that Pence is preparing for the future, whereas Kaine is preparing to be vice president.
And so Mike Pence parrying, instead of answering directly the questions, parrying and turning to what he wanted to talk about right here.
For me, the sanctity of life proceeds out of the belief that ancient principle that where God says, before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. And so for my first time in public life, I've sought to stand with great compassion for the sanctity of life. The state of Indiana has also sought to make sure that we expand alternatives in healthcare counseling for women, non-abortion alternatives. I'm also very pleased with the fact we're well on our way in Indiana to becoming the most pro-adoption state in America. I think if you're going to be pro-life, you should be pro-adoption. But what I can't understand is with Hillary Clinton and now Senator Kaine at her side is to support a practice like partial birth abortion. I mean, to hold to the view, and I know Senator Kaine, you hold pro-life views personally, but the very idea that a child that is almost born into the world could still have their life taken from them is just anathema to me.
And Tim Kaine, the Democrat, a Catholic, Roman Catholic, very faithful Roman Catholic, former seminarian, that puts him on the defensive on the issue of abortion.
It does, but this again really doesn't help the Trump-Pence campaign, because this is an important issue. This pro-life issue is important to Pence. Clearly, he feels it very strongly.
Right.
It's very important to a segment of the Republican electorate, but as an issue to appeal to independent voters in this election, they're much more concerned about the economy.
Yep.
They're much more concerned about jobs. Simply repealing Roe v. Wade is not at the top of the list of most independent voters at this point.
They consider that yet another social issue, not one that directly, most people consider it one that doesn't affect
Exactly.
Coming up next is Sunday night, the presidential candidates. It'll be Trump and Clinton once again, but a different style than what we saw last night or in debate number one.
Yeah, this is going to be a town hall forum. This is where average American voters, independent voters, are going to get to ask questions directly to the candidates. And I got to tell you, this is a forum that is primed for Hillary to do very, very well, largely because it's really primed for Donald Trump to do poorly, because it's one thing when Trump is willing to interrupt and attack the moderator for asking probing questions.
Right.
But if you interrupt a school teacher from Indiana or a worker from Ohio, you're going to just not look like a candidate who cares.
Absolutely. Well, this one will be worth watching, just like the first one was. I think we learned a lot.
Well, we're already primed for 2020, so we may as well finish this one out strong.